This was not just a win. This was the kind of night that changes how people look at a team. The United States didn't just beat Uruguay. They ripped the game open, survived one moment of madness, and then slammed the door with the kind of confidence you want to see right before a World Cup year. The moment the whole stadium realized this was going to be different. If you want the clearest picture of what this match became, start here with Alex Freeman's second goal, because this wasn't a routine finish, and it wasn't some lucky bounce dropped kindly for him in the box. He glides through defenders with balance, control, and just enough composure to turn a dangerous attack into a goal that felt personal. This is the kind of play that tells you one team is sharp, fearless, and completely convinced it owns the night. And honestly, that's what makes this such a perfect opening scene for the story. Before you even get into the scoreline, before you talk about tactics or substitutions or red cards, this goal tells you the United States were playing with swagger. Not fake swagger either. Real swagger, the kind that comes from a team believing every attack is dangerous. The stage and the stakes coming into this game, the context mattered. This was the final US men's national team match of 2025. The last impression before the calendar flips into a World Cup year. So even though it was labeled a friendly, it really didn't feel like one. Players were fighting for places. Roles were still being debated. Midfield spots especially felt open. And when you enter a game with that much internal competition, you usually either get tension or urgency. What the US gave us was urgency. From the opening whistle, the movement looked quicker, the decisions looked cleaner, and the body language looked like a group trying to leave the coaching staff with no doubts at all. That's why the performance mattered more than the result by itself. This was a statement night. Sebastian Berhalter sets the tone, and the player who really lit the fuse was Sebastian Berhalter. The opener is such a huge goal for this script because it instantly changes the mood of the entire match. It comes from a set-piece situation, but what matters most is the confidence behind it. He doesn't look hesitant. He doesn't look like someone hoping the ball finds a teammate. He looks like someone trying to make something happen himself. And when the ball bends in and the US takes the lead, you can feel the whole game tilt. Suddenly Uruguay are chasing. Suddenly the American crowd wakes up. Suddenly every US touch has a little more confidence behind it. For Berhalter personally, that first international goal made the whole night feel bigger because it wasn't just about scoring. It was about announcing that he belongs in this conversation heading into 2026. The sets-piece clinic keeps going. What makes this match so impressive is that the first goal didn't feel isolated. It felt like the beginning of a pattern. Berhalter steps over another dead ball situation, whips in an absolute beauty, and Alex Freeman does the rest with a header that is all timing and precision. This is one of those goals that looks simple until you slow it down. The service has to clear the first defender by the smallest margin. The run has to be perfect. The contact has to send the ball back across goal. And Freeman does all of that like he's been scoring these kinds of goals for years. That's what makes this section important in your narration. The US weren't just energetic, they were prepared. They looked like a team with rehearsed ideas, clear roles, and players who knew exactly where the danger zones were. Even the chances that didn't go in showed the gap. One of the reasons this performance felt so overwhelming is that the score still could have been even worse. This Aiden Morris chance matters in the story because it shows the wave never really stopped. The United States push again, the ball breaks kindly, Morris hits it well, and the goalkeeper has to bail Uruguay out with a serious save. In a lot of highlight packages, moments like this get forgotten because they don't change the scoreboard. But in a narrated breakdown, they matter a lot. They show pressure. They show that the US weren't just living off a couple of set pieces and then sitting back. They were stretching the field, attacking second balls, and keeping Uruguay under stress. That's how you create a scoreline like this. Not with one hot moment, but with repeated pressure until the match starts bending in one direction. Alex Freeman turns a great night into a ridiculous one. Now we come back to Freeman's second, because this is the goal that really breaks the match open emotionally. At 2-0, a game can still drift. At 3-0, especially with a goal like this, it starts to feel like one team is running out of answers. What I love about this moment is how much of it belongs to Freeman himself. This isn't just being in the right place to finish. This is manipulation. He shifts the ball, rides through pressure, and keeps total control while defenders are scrambling around him. Then the finish has that extra layer of class, because even with bodies closing and the keeper reacting, he still finds the right touch. If you're building your own script, this is one of the best clips to lean on because it gives you style, confidence, and the visual feeling of a player taking over a big stage. The fourth goal felt like a training ground sequence. Diego Luna's goal might actually be the clearest example of how comfortable the US looked as a team. This one is less about individual brilliance and more about clean collective play. The ball moves quickly, the choices are simple, the spacing is right, and by the time Luna gets it, the move already feels finished. All he has to do is stay calm, and he does. That's what made the first half so devastating for Uruguay. It wasn't one type of threat. The US could hurt them from a dead ball, from a broken play, from a dribble, and then from a smooth passing move like this. When a team starts scoring in multiple ways, defending them becomes exhausting. And that's exactly what this goal communicates in your video. The Americans weren't just ahead. They were comfortable enough to make a good team look completely disorganized. The one moment of chaos that changed the halftime feeling as dominant as the United States were, this was the moment that reminded everyone football can get weird in a second. The US don't clear it cleanly, there's confusion in the box, and Uruguay punish it with an overhead kick that is honestly outrageous. And this is why the goal belongs in your script even though the US still won easily. It gives the game tension, it gives the story contrast. If the match is nothing but American highlights, the narration can start to feel flat. But this goal changes the emotional texture. Suddenly, the halftime conversation becomes slightly different. Instead of pure celebration, there's a warning. You've dominated, yes, but you've also shown Uruguay one door back into the match. And when the goal you concede is this spectacular, it has an even stronger effect because it grabs everybody's attention at once. Uruguay's second half push mattered, even without another goal. Early in the second half, Uruguay had their best spell outside of the bicycle kick, and I think it's important to include that in your narration because it adds realism. This wasn't 90 straight minutes of one-way traffic. There was a stretch where the Americans had to absorb some pressure, clear some dangerous balls, and watch one strike flash wide. That matters because strong performances aren't only built on attack, they're built on how you respond when the opponent tries to swing momentum back. The US didn't panic. They didn't start making rush decisions all over the pitch. They bent slightly, then reset. For a team trying to prove it can handle big game emotions next year, that's a valuable part of the night. Dominance is great. Control after conceding is even more useful. The red card that ended Uruguay's comeback hopes then came the turning point that removed almost all remaining suspense. The challenge is ugly, reckless, and the reaction from the referee is immediate, straight red. And once that happens, the match changes from can Uruguay make this uncomfortable to how ruthlessly can the US finish this off. I definitely keep this section in your script because it helps explain why the final stages of the match opened up the way they did. But it also says something about the emotional tone of the game. Uruguay had been frustrated by the scoreline, by the speed of the American attacks, and by how little room they were getting to settle into rhythm. That frustration finally spilled over, and when it did, it basically confirmed that the US had broken them both tactically and mentally. Tanner Tessman applies the final stamp. The fifth goal is the perfect ending because it brings the whole night full circle. Berhalter is involved again, the delivery is excellent again, and the finish comes from another player grabbing his moment. Tanner Tessman had only just come on, but he attacks the ball like someone who knows this is his chance to leave a mark. And that's really the best way to describe this match from an American perspective. Players left marks. Berhalter did. Freeman definitely did. Luna did. Tessman did. This wasn't just a comfortable win built by one star carrying everyone else. It felt like a depth chart performance, the kind coaches love because multiple players force themselves into future conversations. By the time Tessman heads this in, the result is beyond doubt. The only real question left is how loudly this performance should echo into the World Cup year. Why this result felt bigger than a friendly, and that's the key thing your script should really emphasize at the end. This did not feel like one of those forgettable friendlies where a team experiments, scores a couple, and moves on. It felt like a message. The US ended 2025 by showing they can be aggressive on set pieces, sharp in transition, creative in open play, and emotionally solid after conceding something spectacular. They also had multiple players score first international goals, which gives the whole game a sense of a squad growing in front of you rather than just surviving another date on the calendar. That's why this match is so useful to build a video around. The highlights are good, but the bigger story is even better. It looked like a team trying to become dangerous at exactly the right time. If this was the last look at the US before the World Cup year, then it was about as strong a closing statement as they could have asked for. 5 goals, multiple breakout performances, 1 scare, 1 response, and a finish that made the whole night feel like a real step forward.